It's that time of year once again. It is time for my 2024 AFL ladder and season predictions. Now, I want to make this 100% clear before we start. These are subjective. There are no need for personal attacks. Let's get straight into this. Starting off with my wooden spooner, and I've gone out there this year. I haven't gone with the wave of what everyone else is going with. I have gone with the West Coast Eagles. Realistically, I do not see another team finishing on the bottom of the table apart from West Coast. You've got those contenders such as, you know, the Richmonds, the North Melbournes, that could be as bad, but you look at it in a bigger picture. Richmond and North Melbourne are in different situations to West Coast. Similar, but different. The way West Coast have been hit with injuries in the last few years has been like nothing we've ever seen in this game. West Coast list is still incredibly young. I think we just got a taste of that in their practice match against Fremantle, in how they still just looked a bit nervous with the ball. They didn't know what to do. A practice match should be a license to go forward, you know, take the game on. And they still just looked a bit iffy. You know, do they want that round one spot or not? I think as a whole, they have gotten rid of quite a few seasoned experienced players, which is what they needed to do in the long term. But I think this season will be another massively down year for West Coast. Won't be as bad. I don't see them, like, you know, conceding 200 points again. I do see a few big losses again, but I don't see them, you know, going to those lengths. I think West Coast will be the worst team in the comp this year. I've got them in 18th. In 17th, I've got North Melbourne. Chances of a bottom two of North Melbourne and West Coast happening again is actually slim, because very rarely do the same bottom two happen back-to-back years. I think North Melbourne have a massive chance of improvement. They've drafted really well. I'm a massive fan of Colby McKercher. I mean, who isn't? That half-back line, you know, the rotation of Harry Sheasel, Zach Fisher, Colby McKercher, it will really improve North Melbourne's transition play this season. Now, at the set of bouncers, you've got two big bodies in Luke Davies-Uniacke and George Wardlaw, who will be getting balls tapped down their throat by Tristan Xerri, who looks to take a massive step this year. Xerri had a few injury issues last season, as well as having to split the ruck loads with Todd Goldstein. But with Goldie going out to the Bombers, Xerri has a license to go all by himself. North Melbourne have some quality talents in every line of the ground, but it will be another down year for them. I do see a lot of improvement coming from North Melbourne, and I think at their highest, they could maybe even sneak out to a 14th or 15th place finish, but I've got them in 17th. In 16th, I've got Richmond. It's been a while since Richmond were really down in the gutters. But it's finally coming back around to that cycle. They've lost some really experienced heads and guys, you know, like Jack Rewell, Jason Castagna, Trent Cotchin, Robbie Tarrant. They're all very experienced people to have around the club, and I think their presence will be missed. And while they've done a little bit in the trade period, I think the mixture of also having a new coach come in, it will be a real transition period for Richmond. I don't see them doing very well. I could even probably see them sneaking down to a bottom two spot. It will very much be, we don't know what sort of footy they're going to play under Adam Uze. We don't know what their best 22 is. We don't know how they'll set up. There's so much grey area for Richmond. I don't know how. I think they're going to be pretty bad this year. But it's too hard to tell. There just isn't enough of a sample size to know how Richmond are going to set up in round one. I've got them in 16th. In 15th, I found this really tough, because I think from about 15th to 11th, it's pretty even. I won't lie. 15th, I have Essendon. I see Essendon massively improving this year, but I couldn't find another team to put 15th. I think that mid-table region is so competitive. Essendon went really hard in the trade period. Again, guys like Xavier Dersma, Jay Gresham, Ben Mackay. But they lost some quality talents. I mean, Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, Massimo D'Ambrosio, they were two vital pieces of Essendon's transition from back to front. And I'm not sure how they get fair without them. D'Ambrosio's run and gun, who was a fringe player, so be it, but I think as a future prospect, he was brilliant for Essendon. And Brandon Zerk-Thatcher, one of the most underrated players in the league, that is a massive loss. I also don't think last year there was really a brand of football that every team in the competition could say, yeah, that's how Essendon play. There's still a bit of a grey area, a lack of identity, and with some massive list changes, I see the Bombers having another bit of a down year. I've got them in 15th. In 14th, I've got Geelong. Now, the last time I picked Geelong to be in the lower end of the table, they won the flag. So I'm hoping and I'm thinking that Geelong don't win the flag this year. Geelong have been contending for so long, and last year was one of their first transition years in quite a while, and Geelong only tend to have 1 or 2 years down the bottom of the table, but I think it could be a bit longer this time. They blooded the youth really well last year. You know, they rested quite a few senior players, and they missed finals, but I think in the long term, Chris Scott would be happy with the positives to take out of last year. They lost some absolute quality in the offseason in the Savaraga and Isaac Smith, two crucial parts of the Cats makeup, but I loved how they drafted him. One guy I'm really excited to see how he does is Sean Manor. He was best on in the VFL Grand Final. He's a mature age pick, and I really feel like he could deliver something special to the Cats. There's always that sort of player in the AFL that gets picked at a mature age level and just goes bang. Again, I think there's a bit of a list identity crisis. I'm not really sure if Chris Scott knows what he's going to do this year, what the ambitions, the expectations are. I've got Geelong in the lower end though. I've got him in 14. In 13th, I've got the Gold Coast Suns. I think the Suns are being a little bit overhyped this year, I won't lie. Obviously, they have got massive talent all over the ground. You got Connor Buderick down back, you got the Andersons, the Rouse, the Wits in the middle, you've got Ben King up front. You've got talent all over the ground, but I don't feel like the list is complete. And with a new coach, I think we forget Damien Hardwick's dynasty took a long time at Richmond. I think to come in and start playing a brand new style of football, because Damien Hardwick's football is very distinctive. I think to come in and make an entire club start playing a brand new style of football and make the 8 would be an incredible achievement. They lost some key pieces in Mabior Chol and Elijah Hollins, which will make them really vulnerable up forward. That being said, I do think they drafted well. I think Jed Walter, key forward, looks like an absolute gun. He is going to miss the start of the season with a collarbone injury, but I think he looks really good. But I know we've been saying it for so long, but Gold Coast, they need to start taking that big step into finals. Unfortunately, once again, I don't think it will be this year, but it's the first year with a new coach. Their list isn't where they want it. I don't think they had the trade period they really wanted to have either. It will be a down year for the Suns, in my opinion, looking at it from a far out point of view. In 12th, I've got Hawthorn. Hawthorn will improve this year, and there's no doubt about it. Massimo D'Ambrosio, Mabior Chol, Jack Ginnivan, Jack Gunston. All players that they brought in, or in Jack Gunston's case, brought back in. And I think the sort of footy we were seeing from Hawthorn last year a bit sporadically and a bit more consistently towards the back end of the year was a really, really big sign in how Sam Mitchell's taking this Hawks project on. They already look promising, they already look exciting, and by adding some boosted talent, I think Hawthorn will climb up the ladder a little bit, and I wouldn't be shocked if they make finals. I've always been one of those people that even in their down years, I was really, really enthusiastic with how the Hawks list was building. In 11th, I've got the Western Bulldogs. If my ladder prediction comes true with the Western Bulldogs, I believe Luke Beveridge will probably be out the door. And I think it will be the case. I think Beveridge over the last few years and for quite a while now has been so naive as a coach. Just playing so many players out of position, not giving anyone really a consistent role, not putting a consistent 22 out on the park. The offseason wasn't really very eventful for the Bulldogs either. I mean, they picked up the superstar in the making, Riley Sanders, who will be added to that Bulldogs midfield mix. But I think the Dogs will be very, very similar to last year. And I think the downward spiral of the Western Bulldogs was highlighted by that late season loss last season to the Eagles. Their midfield's slowly falling apart. They obviously lost Josh Dunkley 2 years ago, and now Bailey Smith's out for the season with an ACL. It's going to be really tough to see how Luke Beveridge and the Western Bulldogs step up to the 2024 challenge, but if they're up to it, don't rule out a finals berth. In 10th, I've got the GWS Giants. Now, in case you've never watched one of my ladder predictions videos before, I like to go a bit out there because realistically, the ladder never stays the same. And I think with the Giants, it's going to be a very, very similar case to the 2023 Dockers. Their off-season was a bit irrelevant. They didn't really lose anybody of note. Maybe, I don't know, Matt Flynn. But I think they overexceeded. I think with the Dockers in 2022, we had a massive run of wins and we were just sort of taking everything in its flow. But what we didn't realise is it wasn't sustainable. I think living off the Giants style of football last year, nicknamed the Orange Tsunami, won't be sustainable for the Giants this year either. I think they are going to fall off a little bit. I don't necessarily think they'll be an awful team, but I think it will very much be a regression year for the Giants. And sometimes it's going to be one step back to go one step forward. And I think the Giants for the Dockers are on very, very similar wavelengths. This isn't necessarily a bad thing for the Giants finishing outside the 8. It's one step back to go 2 steps forward. And that's 100% okay because it happens with a lot of footy teams. I hope the Giants have a good year, but unfortunately, I've got them out the 8. In 9th, I've got Melbourne. There is a little bit of a crumbling with the Demons at the moment. Obviously, there's those culture issues. We've got Joel Smith with whatever, I'm not going to say. We've got Clayton Oliver, who's in a bit of a grey area at the moment. He did play the practice match, which is a good sign, but how long can he stay on the park without pissing up his career off the field? Obviously, a detrimental loss this season is Angus Brayshaw, who only less than a week ago medically retired. And they've lost some key pieces, James Harms and particularly James Jordan. He was a young superstar and I couldn't see him leaving the Demons. I'm excited about Caleb Windsor, who they got with the number 7 pick in the draft. I'm really, he can play on the wing, he can play through the middle, he can play up forward. He's a really, really versatile young player. But I think it is the year for the Demons to miss out on the 8. Do I think it's the end of the dynasty? Probably not. I think there is time to recover it, but the ice is getting thin. I think if Simon Goodwin can get his team into a flow where they're winning 8-10 games in a 12-13 game patch, I think they can push for sort of a top 4 spot. But I've just got them missing out on the 8 this year and, having a little bit of a regressed year. Let's go into the 8. I've got the Dockers. Now, I already see the comments. UCATT, you're a biased prick. UCATT, delete your channel. Fuck you. But I don't care what you have to say. I think the Dockers are being massively disrespected this season. We've lost Lockie Schultz. We've got guys like Cooper Simpson, who could be one of the steals of the draft, and mature age gun Tom Emmett. Tom Emmett had an unbelievable ending to last season. He was kicking 2-3 goals a game in only his first couple games of football. In the preseason, we saw some more of his magic in the practice match against the Eagles. We've lost Liam Henry, but in my opinion, we've replaced him with a better player, a better winger in Jeremy Sharp. Henry was playing for a contract last season. I'm not afraid to say it, and he can piss off. I'm sorry, I'm being so horrible. What I'm trying to say, I think, is when we've got list gaps, they are being filled with more than viable players. And I think if Justin Longmuir can get the Dockers playing a gutsy, consistent style of football once again, there is zero reason why we shouldn't be a top 8 side. We've got the players for it. Our midfield rotation is a headache, and that's a really good thing to have. You've got Darcy in the ruck, Jackson as backup. The midfield rotation is Fife, Sarong, Brayshaw, Johnson, O'Meara, Erasmus. I mean, who do we even put in there? There's so many options. Oh, sorry, Hayden Young, forgot about him. There are so many options, and we are in a crisis of who do we pick. We've got really good depth this year. And I think our back line and our forward line, they're two big things. If we can get the mix right there, whether we go tall or small down back, which key forwards we pick up front, if we get the mix right, we will be a very good team this year. And I think people are underestimating how good our list looks, because I'm a massive fan of it. In 7th, I've got the Adelaide Crows. We all know last season that Adelaide were completely and utterly robbed of a finals place. I think the Crows are a developing side that are taking a few steps extra forward. I don't think in 2022 anyone expected the Dockers to have the year that they had. I don't think last year anyone expected the Giants to have the year that they had. And I think it will be very similar with the Crows. I think the Crows could push quite high up in the top 8 this year. Yes, I know a lot of people are predicting the Crows in the top 8, but they could turn into one of the most attractive sides to watch in the comp if Matthew Nicks plays his cards right. I think a massive loss in the off-season was Tom Duday, who went to Brisbane. He was the mainstay, he was the general, he was the guy that set up the backline. Could that be a loss in terms of team defense? Yes, massively, but I think the Crows are up to replacing him. Daniel Curtin, 18, 19 years of age, from WA. I've watched him play and he's an absolute jet. Adelaide have drafted really well. They went and picked up Chris Burgess from Gold Coast as a bit of key forward depth. And I think the Crows are in a good position. I think they're going to climb in the top 8 and I think they're going to have a good year. I'm a massive fan of the Matthew Nicks project and what he's done with Adelaide. And I think this is the year where results finally start to show. In 6th, I've got St Kilda. Ross Lyon is a mastermind. That's all I've got to say. In his 3rd year at the Saints in his first stint, he made a grand final. In his 4th year with the Saints, he made another grand final. In terms of in the first one, they lost by 2 goals. The second one, he got sent to a replay. With the Dockers, in his first year, with a really, really crap list, made a semi-final. In his 2nd year, made a grand final. In his 3rd year, made a semi-final. In his 4th year, won the minor premiership, lost to the prelim. Ross Lyon's a mastermind. He does things with mediocre lists very, very quickly. And the big difference here is St Kilda's list is not mediocre. I don't think their losses in the off-season were too high profile. I think guys like Jack Billings, Nick Caulfield, they won't be absolutely decimated by that. But then I think they drafted and picked up some really, really good players. Ari Schoenmaker and Darcy Wilson. I mean, Ari Schoenmaker was the last pick in the draft, and he looks like an absolute steal. And Darcy Wilson, the leg on that man is ridiculous. The Saints drafted well, even in the trade period. Riley Bogger, Paddy Dow, Liam Henry, 3 really solid depth pickups that can push into the best 22. Especially Riley Bonner. In that practice match, he looks like a jet. I think Ross Lyon is going to push the Saints deep into finals this year. and I'm really, really optimistic about how St Kilda will fare. I think that defence-first style of football will hold them in good stead. I think playing 1 year of it will make it the second year of it even better, and the third year even better than that. I think St Kilda are looking really good going into the future. In fifth, I've got Sydney. Sydney, you've got to say, were probably the winners of the trade period. Taylor Adams, Brodie Grundy, Joel Hamling, James Jordan. That ain't bad. Sydney, at the same time as setting up for the future, are going all in this year. Sydney want a flag, and they want it this year or the next. John Longmire and his team are going ambitious, and I'm all here for it. You've already got the mainstay guy that's the face of the Sydney Swans in Errol Golgan, who, if he didn't take it up a notch last season, he's going to take it up even another one this season. Adding James Jordan, who's just such an underrated asset as a free agent. I mean, what a pickup. Brodie Grundy is solo ruck. I think we forget what a healthy Brodie Grundy can do, because that's exactly what we've got this year. And, I mean, do we forget Brodie Grundy for a good period of time was the best ruckman in the league? Because it could turn back to those ways this year. John Longmire Myers is a bit like a Luke Beveridge, and you never know what you're going to get. He switches players around willy-nilly in their positions, but if you can get it right, they have got the list to contend for a flag this year, and I'm optimistic as hell about the Swans. Entering the top four, in fourth, I have Port Adelaide. You've got the core of Zach Butters and Connor Ozee that win clearances for days. In the forward line, you've got a young guy like Todd Marshall being nurtured by an experienced guy such as Charlie Dixon. And down back, you've got the general Aaliyah. They lost some key pieces, I won't lie. Xavier Dersma is a massive loss. Scott Lycett, he's a decently sized loss, as well as their captain, Tom Jonas. In the trade period, they went quite tall. They went and got Radaglia, Soldo, and Sweet to really boost their ruck stocks, as well as Brandon Zerk-Thatcher. In the trade period, Port Adelaide went all in. Ken Hinkley's in a very similar position to Luke Beveridge this year in terms of, if he doesn't have a good year, his job might be on the line. But I think they've got the list for it. I think Ken Hinkley is a good coach. He just needs to do it in finals. I think Port will make top four yet again, but they need to actually make a dent in September. That is the big defining point for Ken Hinkley. In third, I've got Carlton. Carlton this offseason brought in Elijah Hollins, Orazio Fantasia. I think the Blues case this year is all about building off 2023, and I don't think they're in the case of the Giants where they were playing an unsustainable style of football and they might need to regress for a year. I think the Blues can build off their really strong defensive style of football where they get it from the back, they move it nicely, they move it in a gutsy manner, and they get it down the throat of the Harry Mackay's, the Charlie Kerner. You've got a healthy Sam Walsh this season, which is scary for everyone. And I don't see the Blues going backwards. I definitely don't. In fact, I see them going an even step further. And they made a prelim last year. In second, I've got the Pies. The reigning premiers, we all know how good they are. Has some massive losses in guys like Taylor Adams and Jack Ginnivan. But I don't think it will affect them too much. They've still got the main core of guys. They just need to stay level-headed. Craig McRae needs to drill into them that they don't want one flag. They want two, they want three, they want four. They want to become a dynasty. Is this the start of it? Potentially. Obviously, they picked up an incredible player in Lockie Schultz, my former favourite player at the Dockers. They've got a guy that is so strong, and he's so versatile in the way that he can do it at ground level. He can score goals from nothing. He can create goals from nothing for others. Such a versatile and brilliant player as Lockie Schultz, and he'll add to an already brilliant Pie side. And yeah, like I said, the Collingwood Football Club regressing in 2024. And the Migrant Premiership, I've got the Brisbane Lions. How long is it going to take this stupid football club to win a flag? Because this has to be it, surely. Their list is in a brilliant position. They've added Tom Doedee to an already stacked backline. Their transition game's brilliant. Their second clearance game's brilliant. Their forwards are brilliant. They've got absolute quality all over the park. They've got the best list in the competition. Will they win the flag? Surely. Brisbane, they're the best team in the comp this year. They're going to finish first. My Brownlow this year, I was lost when deciding my Brownlow, but I've ended up settling on Sydney's Errol Golgan. His ability to catch the umpire's eye on the scoreboard, inside, outside, everywhere, all over the park. One of the cleanest ball users, if not the cleanest ball user in the comp. What a brilliant player Errol Golgan is. I think he's really going to catch the umpire's eye this year. He's the face of the Sydney Swans. And with Brodie Grundy smashing balls down his throat, he is going to go to a different level this year. Errol, he's going to win the Brownlow for Sydney. And he already came really close last year after not even, topping his potential. My Rising Star's a really interesting one, and I feel like some people might disagree with me on this. Obviously, you thought of the guys like Colby McKercher and Riley Sanders. But I've just had a thought. Colby McKercher is going to, I think he's going to struggle to get the recognition. Yes, he's going to be brilliant this year, and he's going to rack up the penalties. But you've got guys like Zach Fisher and Harry Shees on the halfback, who are going to rack up, if not the same amount, even more possessions than McKercher in his first year. And I just think he'll struggle to get that recognition. I think McKercher will have a brilliant year, but I think he'll struggle for that recognition, as I've already stated about 5 times. And then I thought of a guy like Riley Sanders, who again, it's the recognition thing. He's competing in the midfield with Marcus Bontempelli, Tom Liberatore, Jack McRae. It's going to be really tough for him. And whether that means getting dropped a few times throughout the season, yes, I think he'll be a mainstay of the Dogs' best 22. But I don't think he'll be prone for being dropped. It's his first year. Like, I think he's going to be an absolute jet, and he looked brilliant in that preseason game. But I think we need to lower expectations a little bit for all these rookies. And Harley Reid, I think he'll have a bit of an up and down year. I think the media needs to temper the expectations on him. Yes, I think he will end up being a brilliant player. But I think in these first few years, they're a massively decimated West Coast side. I don't think he'll catch the eye of people that they're expecting. So I've actually settled on North Melbourne's George Wardlaw. George Wardlaw will not have an issue in getting noticed. He loves the tackle, he loves the kick, he loves the second clearance, he loves the fend off, and he'll be the main guy in there with Luke Davies-Uniacke. It'll be the two-headed bulls, LDU and George Wardlaw going at it. He is going to be that big-bodied machine. It's like a 25-year-old going for the Rising Star. Wardlaw is already a man. Wardlaw is going to have an amazing year. He's my Rising Star pick. For the Coleman, really interesting one. I could have gone the generic Jeremy Cameron, Charlie Curnow, Tex Walker, I don't know, Nick Larkey. But I've gone with Hawthorn's Mitch Lewis. Mitch Lewis is ready for the year that takes him to another level of goal kicking in the AFL. This could be the year where he kicks 60 or so goals and where he just goes absolutely off and becomes one of the premier goal kickers in the competition. His leading, his movement, everything about Mitch Lewis, he's such a dynamic key forward, and he's got all the abilities to score goals from all sorts of different angles and situations. I think he's going to have a massive year, and he's my Coleman pick. My grand final is different. My grand final is Carlton and St Kilda. I think Ross Lyon loves to create special things, and that's why I think the Saints are going to niggle their way to a little grand final. And I think the Blues will go one step further. I mean, how close were they to winning that prelim last year? They were incredibly close. And I think it's just going to be that thing of building on last year and going that one step further, making the grand final. My premiership pick is Carlton. They're going to be the 2024 AFL Premiers over St Kilda in the grand final. I just think they are going to be the best team of the comp. Realistically, it should be Brisbane based off what I was saying earlier, and Brisbane should be there. But I've just got that feeling that, again, they'll fail to get there because it just seems to always happen with the Lions. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Remember, these are all subjective, and, you know, just leave your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.